Hello, my name is Andrew Ephlin. I am a senior studying economics at the Krannert School of Management, and my topic for today is on the substantial increase of student debt and its effect on the American consumer. And with that, we will get started. So the first thing I'll address with this project is why this particular interest in this subject and with this particular idea or this question. And from a personal standpoint, besides the obvious, I am a student at Purdue University, so therefore I am a student at university. So I would come across this issue of this rising student loan debt myself, and it's obviously a point of contention with many of my peers, and particularly in the times that we are in now, that this issue is on most everyone's mind. Even, for example, not even just younger students, many politicians and legislation has been enacted or is trying to address this issue, with even including members of the presidential campaigns that are currently going on right now. A lot of them have platforms of either forgiving student debt or having free tuition colleges to try and combat this issue in general or in the future. But it's an issue that has grabbed a lot of attention and has seemed to gain a lot of momentum coming into this political season. And then beyond just that, too, a Politico poll showed that 67% of Americans view it as an important threat to our economy, with 29% of that 67% viewing this as with 29% viewing it as a critical threat to the economy, while 44% of Americans view it as a major issue to the country as a whole, and conducted in the same poll. So I wanted to provide some background upon the potential issues that might come about of student debt. So as I was going through my analysis of my data and my research, I found that total debt has increased 192.9% from 2003 to 2019. Yet in that same period, student loan debt has increased by 622.4%. Now, based on pure numbers, the difference between total debt and student debt is still very large, but the proportionate increase is rather shocking and rather telling, as you can see from the numbers here, because it is so much greater, and it does seem like it could possibly pose a potential issue. And that was one of the things I was looking into to see if there might be some indicators of an issue, at least in the consumer spending of households in the United States. And then also with my research, I found from the years of 2001 to 2013, the wage of those with a bachelor's degree has fallen by 10.3%, while the cost of college has increased by 31% over the same course of time. So one of the things that I thought about in a simple financial sense with this was if it was like an investment, if your education was an investment that you were making, would you seemingly be getting this return on your investment that you would expect or want from, say, an investment in the stock market or in housing? And could this possible overinflation of your investment be potentially hazardous for the economic well-being or household economic well-being in the future? So my main research question that I was approaching with this paper and with this study was I was attempting to answer if there is any effect that the rapid and sizable increase in student loan debt what it might pose on the American consumer, and therefore their input into the economy, and then after that, seeing if there might be any implications that could come from that. My methods for this project was to first gather data, and primarily I did this from two sources, the Bureau of Economic Analysis and the New York Federal Reserve. The Bureau of Economic Analysis was for the personal consumption expenditures, and the New York Federal Reserve was for the data on debt. Um, both of these both of these data sources, I transposed the data into trillions of dollars for both of these. Um, Also, with the Bureau of Economic Analysis, I looked into other things for controls, such as personal income and the different categories that come with personal consumption expenditures, such as durable goods, services, and non-durable goods. With this data in place, and after coming to an understanding with this data, was summarizing it and finding relationships. This is where I found the relationship between the disparities in increase between total debt and student loan debt. I would form regressions for determining the significance and correlation that these factors might have on one another. So here I just have the data that I had entered into Stata, and as I talked about this in the previous slide, here you can see some of the points that I had, such as mortgage, auto loan, and then beyond debt, there was also the personal consumption expenditures, durable goods, and then the other data points I had in here too was I had change in the certain types of debt and change in total debt, and I also had information on personal income, such as disposable personal income and percentage change in personal income, to use that later as sort of a control for the regression beyond just comparing the two factors of personal consumption expenditures with the change in student loan debt. With all this in place, I formed my regressions, and the first regression I made was on the percentage change of personal consumption. So this was the percentage change by quarter. So at the third quarter of 2003 to the third quarter of 2019, this was each percentage change in the quarter. So how much did the personal consumption expenditures increase or decrease, that percentage by quarter. And I had this as the dependent variable. And while my independent variable would be the change in student loan by quarter, so this is exactly what it sounds like. It's the difference between the student loan debt from the current quarter to by the previous quarter, and I compared these together. And then the second regression I had for this was one with more controls, where it was those first two original variables, but I also added in the percentage change in personal income, which is what I talked about for the percentage change in personal consumption expenditures, except translated for personal income. The percentage change in durable goods, as this is usually the indicator of how well the economy does, and this is usually a good indicator on consumer confidence. And then percentage change in total debt by quarter, because I also wanted to see if this was something that could be determined by debt itself rather than just student loan debt exclusively. So with all that in mind, I came to my results. So without the controls for the first regression, I actually got a p-value of 0.648 and an r-squared value of 0.0033 and an adjusted r-squared of negative 0.0125. And here I have the two-way scatter plot of that regression with the fitted variable. And then with the controls, the r-squared was 0.7693 and the adjusted r-squared was 0.7540. So the correlation was more positive and a lot stronger than the original, than the first R squared, and all other p-values had showed statistical significance, meaning they were below 0.05. And this is what I got for the first two regressions after analyzing them. So the conclusions I came to with this was that there is not a clear relationship between the growth of student loan debt and a perceived effect on personal consumption expenditures, because it was not statistically significant and there was no major correlation in the relationship at all. So therefore, you can reasonably conclude that it is not likely that the change in student loan debt had any effect on the overall percentage change that personal consumers would experience by quarter. This in mind, the change in with this further, the change in total debt and change in personal income both seem to have more significant, not drastically, as they only were an R squared value of 0.1, around 0.1, but they did have more significant relationships and stronger correlation than the change in student loan debt had. So that is my presentation. Thank you for tuning in, and that is all.